Cat. Hello, my name is Grant Smith Ellis. If you saw today's Day 1 of the TurtleBoy District Court trial involving named victim Lindsey Gaetani and Day 30 of the John O'Keefe and Karen Reed trial, you saw a dud in the Karen Reed and John O'Keefe trial, and Aidan Kearney make a devastating tactical mistake by selecting a bench trial, getting Judge Pomerol, the chief judge of Dedham District Court, one of the judges who was involved in the decision that saw Kearney sent to jail last year for 60 days on a bail revocation, in charge of Kearney's trial, solely in charge for an RO violation alleged to have occurred on 2/26/2024 outside of the Karen Reed and John O'Keefe trial as to named victim Lindsey Gaetani. Ladies and gentlemen, we heard evidence today in that Aidan Kearney trial covered exclusively on Towel Stream. We heard evidence presented that from court officers, ladies and gentlemen, testifying that Aidan Kearney was in the area and told to leave, left or was told to leave because Lindsey Gaetani was in the courtroom. And then we heard testimony from, I believe it was Colin McCabe's sister, one of the McCabes, Megan McCabe, that she was filming a video, Megan McCabe, walking out of the court with Lindsey that day, ladies and gentlemen. And after Aidan Kearney had been told to leave the area because Lindsey was there, because a restraining order was already open against Mr. Kearney, and held by Lindsey, Mr. Kearney stayed in the area, and then on video, ladies and gentlemen, on video, Mr. Kearney walked towards Miss Gaetani and her group as Miss Gaetani and her group of friends and supporters of the O'Keefe family and witnesses were walking to the parking lot. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we heard heartbreaking testimony that when Lindsey Gaetani and the group of witnesses arrived to Lindsey's car, it was damaged. Someone had damaged Lindsey's car, ladies and gentlemen, while Lindsey Gaetani was inside Norfolk Superior Court supporting the O'Keefe trial, supporting the O'Keefe family. Just devastating, ladies and gentlemen. Just a devastating day. My name is Grant Smith Ellis. You can see the picture right there. It's Aidan Kearney on one side from a pit last year, Lindsey Gaetani on the other. Oh my word, ladies and gentlemen. So just a bad Aidan Kearney's trial. One other development is that Paul O'Keefe will be subpoenaed as a witness in that trial. Paul O'Keefe will be testifying sometime Wednesday after 11 a.m. Aidan Kearney is calling Paul O'Keefe as a witness, apparently because a woman named Kate Mafia Massel Peter, for no reason whatsoever, messaged Lindsey and Paul on that day of the O'Keefe and Reed retrial in question, 2/26/2024, and told Paul O'Keefe that Lindsey wanted to come to court to support the O'Keefe family, but told Lindsey, this is Kate Peter, by the way, Kate Mafia Massel Peter, but told Lindsey that the O'Keefes wanted Lindsey to come to court to show support for Lindsey. So I don't know why Kate Peter did this. Kate Mafia Massel Peter, who used to be a colleague of Aidan Kearney until 2019 and just has a bit of a weird reputation in the O'Keefe and Reed case, in my opinion. But ladies and gentlemen, for some reason, Paul O'Keefe is now a witness in this case. But the case is only halfway done. Aidan TurtleBoy Kearney trial, Day 1, Dedham District Court done. Day 2 scheduled to start Wednesday, 11 a.m., right at the conclusion of the Karen Reed and John O'Keefe trial. I think, ladies and gentlemen, based on the testimony I heard today, based on the fact that it is Judge Pomerol, ladies and gentlemen, I think it is very likely that Aidan Kearney is heading for a conviction in Dedham District Court, which would mean Lindsey Gaetani, ladies and gentlemen, was the first named victim to bring Aidan Kearney to criminal trial, and it could be that Lindsey Gaetani will be the first named victim to get a guilty verdict against Aidan Kearney. Now, I don't know why Aidan Kearney made the decision to go with a bench trial, ladies and gentlemen. It was a shocking last-minute tactical maneuver that funneled Mr. Kearney right into the palms of Judge Pomerol. I didn't mean to do that. It just happened, ladies and gentlemen. But that said, there was also developments in the John O'Keefe and Karen Reed trial. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the news of the day is that Karen Reed has confirmed she only has 2 witnesses left after Hank Brennan won his motion to prevent Karen Reed's strange forensic pathologist from testifying about dog bites because there's no dog DNA in the case, and the doctor in question didn't even really know about dog bites. Dr. LaPosada got her testimony limited, and then we found out at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, that the John O'Keefe and Karen Reed retrial is going to be done in the next few days. Alan Jackson needs just an hour and a half more with Dr. LaPosada. Hank Brennan needs 30 minutes on cross. Then Alan Jackson needs 3 to 4 hours with Dr. Rentschler from ARCA. Hank Brennan's going to need an hour or so on cross, so that takes us into Wednesday, okay? And then Hank Brennan needs 2 hours for his rebuttal case, and there won't be a Sir rebuttal from Reed. So we're looking, ladies and gentlemen, Wednesday afternoon at the latest, maybe Wednesday towards the end of close of court for Brennan to be done with rebuttal. That means Thursday, ladies and gentlemen, expect closing arguments and the charging of the jury in the John O'Keefe and Karen Reed retrial. I hope you can collect yourself. I hope you can ready and compose yourself because it is going to be an intense week. Is Aidan Kearney going to get convicted? Is Lindsey Gaetani going to stand tall, ladies and gentlemen? And will Karen Reed be heading into an orange jumpsuit? And will the world yell out in unison, "Get in the van, Karen"? Well, my name's Grant Smith Ellis. I'm a towel, and we're going to find out together. Now, let us take a look, ladies and gentlemen, because I have a very special towel recap prepared for you, as I mentioned earlier. We are ready to begin with Hank Brennan's excellent recross of Dr. Daniel Wolf from ARCA. Then we're going to watch one other big moment that happened. The Karen Reed defense is so desperate, they lost yet another mistrial motion. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Hank Brennan asked a line of questioning about whether holes in John O'Keefe's shirt were caused by the accident on the night of 1/29/2022. Turns out that they were caused by a forensic analyst cutting the shirt or something like that. Needless to say, there was a curative instruction. Bob Alessi lost his mistrial motion, and that was the day that was in the Aidan Kearney, Lindsey Gaetani, John O'Keefe, and Karen Reed trial chaos. I threw down. I did everything I could to cover both trials for you at once. We were a cogent, erudite, and informed little towels, and now we're going to watch Hank Brennan do his recross. We're going to watch the mistrial arguments, and then we are going to be done for the day. My word, ladies and gentlemen, it was a dud of a day in the Reed and O'Keefe trial, but Aidan Kearney could be heading towards conviction. Oh, my word, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, my word. Oh, and then there was a question as to whether Paul O'Keefe has to bring his phones and records. That motion was not decided. As of now, all Paul O'Keefe has to do is show up to testify as a witness. The ruling on the phones and any messages between Paul and Kate Peter and et cetera, will be decided on Wednesday. It's really more embarrassing for Kate Peter than anyone else, ladies and gentlemen, but Kate Peter is also a person who unfortunately started a rumor that some of the Reed witnesses sold narcotics when that was completely not true, and no one had ever said it before. Kate spread that to TurtleBoy as a way to troll him. So I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. History has a weird way of coming around, and the dam has thus broken when it comes to, I think, Kate Peters' behavior, in my opinion, in some ways. But let's listen to Hank Brennan's stellar recross, and let's watch the mistrial argument, and then we will be done for the day. Take it away, Hank.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
Doctor, did you have a chance to speak to anybody from the defense this weekend?
Not over the weekend, no.
After you left here Friday?
On Friday, I let them know that I was returning back home, and then I let them know last night that I had arrived, yes.
Did you receive any new information or have any conversation before you came in today?
No.
Now, when we asked you about weight last week, you did not go into any calculations about the difference between the standard arm, 11.86, and the 9.38, did you?
I don't believe we did, no.
In fact, when you testified last week, at the end of the day, you were asked questions by Attorney Jackson about the weight of that arm, correct?
Yes.
And when you were asked about the weight of the arm, Attorney Jackson asked you if you were asked a lot of questions about the difference in the weight of the arm, about 11.8 pounds statistically as it relates to Mr. O'Keefe versus 9.4 pounds. Do you remember him asking you about that?
Yes.
And you were asked whether you were aware whether anybody had measured the weight of John O'Keefe's right arm. And you responded, I'm not aware of that, no. Do you remember that testimony?
Yes.
And then you were asked, when you asked questions about whether or not his arm was 11.8 pounds, are you aware of anybody ever just weighing just his arm? And you said no.
Correct.
And finally, you were asked, what is that based on, 11.8? Where did that come from? Remember what you said?
Yes.
I don't know. Remember you answered Attorney Jackson and you said, I don't know where that came from.
Right, referring to, I don't know what source you pulled that 11.8 from.
And so you were suggesting that that is just a number pulled out of thin air, right? Was that a surprising estimate, 11.8 to you?
I don't know that it was surprising. I don't know what your source is for it.
Well, when you engage in accident reconstruction, you never just take somebody's limb and sever it and throw it on a scale, do you?
I'm not usually doing that part of the analysis, no.
So when you're relying on body weight and different parts of the body, there is strong statistical studies that give you a guide, isn't there?
I would agree with that, yes.
Well, the number's just on the thin air. If you're doing a study and you have to figure out damage to an arm or a foot or a leg, and you have to come to an estimated value or weight, you have to get that information from somewhere, don't you?
I would agree, yes.
So you just make it up out of thin air. You have to find a resource, a reliable, vetted resource. True?
I would agree.
And that's what you do.
In some instances, yes.
Well, in this case, you chose an arm that was 9.38 pounds. Where did you get the support that the 216-pound, 6'1" man would have an arm that weighs 9.38 pounds? Where did you get that from?
Well, it's conservative from the standpoint, if you think about one of the equations we talked about last week, force is equal to mass times acceleration. So if we take the acceleration data from our test and we multiply it by a lighter mass, the 9.38 pounds, it's less force to the arm. So now if you want to increase the mass of the arm, you're now talking about a greater net force to the arm. So it's conservative from a force perspective.
Put aside your story about the force perspective. My specific question is...
So it's sustained. Ask the question differently.
I'll ask you again, Doctor. Tell us where you got the 9.38-pound value from when considering a 6'1", 216-pound man. Where did you get that from so you could be statistically accurate?
It is the mass of the hybrid 3-arm. We saw the photograph that depicted the weight. Again, how you account for that when you're doing the force calculations is you would utilize the acceleration data that we measured, and then you would apply a different mass, in this case, a heavier arm. And I will note, it's the same thing that Dr. Welcher did in his drop test with the hybrid 3 head. He ultimately measured the acceleration of the head, and then to calculate the force, he adjusted the mass of according to Mr. John O'Keefe's mass of his head.
So for the third time, I'm going to ask you just a very simple question. Dumb it down for me if you can, okay, Doctor? Where did you get the source to legitimize using a 9.38-pound arm for a person that's 6'1", 216 pounds? Where did your source to say that arm is validated for use for that size man? Where is that?
Again, it's the weight of the ATD arm. That is what the 50th percentile arm weighs. As I mentioned, in our field, it's accepted to utilize the acceleration data, and then you adjust the force based upon an increase in mass.
Is that your answer?
Yes.
Mr. O'Keefe's body weight and size does not put him in the 50th percentile like the 9.38 arm. He's closer to the 95th percentile. Isn't that fair to say?
Correct.
And there is, in fact, the 95th percentile crash test dummy, isn't there?
There is, yes.
Yeah. You chose the 50th percentile, which is shorter, yes?
Correct.
Weighs less, yes?
Correct.
And the arm weighs less, True?
Correct.
The truth is, you have absolutely no study, no paper, no article that supports using a 9.38 arm for a 216-pound man who's 6'1". You have not one reference or study you can offer us right now, do you?
I don't agree with that because, again, if you look how Dr. Welcher did it, he used the 50th percentile in his drop test with the head, and to calculate the force, he adjusted for Mr. John O'Keefe's mass of the head. Same thing is done in this instance with the lighter arm. We adjust for that in the calculations.
So you have one paper, one study. I know the answer to this, so let me ask. You have one paper, one to support that it is appropriate to use the 50th percentile 9.38 arm for a person who is 6'1", 216 pounds. I won't ask you again, but if you can answer this once for me. Do you have one paper, one study?
So I'll take out the commentary. Can you answer that, or answer that question, please?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
You have one paper. Give me a name, an author. One paper, one study that supports using a 9.38 arm, 50th percentile, when you're doing a crash test for somebody who's in the 95th percentile who weighs 216 pounds and is 6'1". One paper, sir.
I don't have a paper because Dr. Rentschler is addressing the forces and the injuries to the arm.
You talked about, however, would you come up with the number 11.8? Like it was something that is curious or foreign to you, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
Are you confused how the number 11.8 would come up?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
I'm not confused. I don't know your source for it.
When you do studies, would you agree that the head has a similar weight to the arm and that the weight of an arm would be about 5.48% of a person's body weight?
I'm sure that there's various studies out there that talk about that could be one particular study.
Well, let's talk about one study. What do you think? You're the engineer, you're the expert. When you're weighing an arm by percent, what is the percent of the arm of the total body weight?
I don't know as I sit here today off the top of my head, no.
I'm sorry?
I don't know as I sit here today off the top of my head.
Well, if you don't know the percent of body weight of the arm compared to the whole body, how would you ever come up with a number for the arm?
Well, from the work that I've done with Dr. Rentschler in this case, dating back to last year, it's my understanding that his calculation for the arm was approximately 11 pounds.
So you're relying on somebody else's study? You're doing an independent assessment of the evidence, and you're relying on other people's math? Is that what you're telling us?
I don't agree with that because, as I've mentioned numerous times, Dr. Rentschler and I worked as a team on this case. You can't separate the reconstruction part from the biomechanical part. It's an integral part that works together on it.
Would you agree that the arm is about statistically vetted, that it's 5.48% of the total body weight? Would you agree with that?
It sounds about right, but again, I don't have the percentage off the top of my head.
So if you take 5.48% of a 171-pound man, which is the crash test dummy you were using, the 50 percentile, what do you get?
You said 5.48%?
Yeah.
Just over 9 pounds.
Okay. Close to 9.38?
9.37.
Okay. Now when you have 216 pounds, 5.48%,
11.8.
11.8. Sound about right, doctor?
By that calculation, yes.
Okay. Now, you said you had some confusion where I'd get that number from, this 11.8. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And when I threw out that number, is that the first time you heard of that number?
The 11.8?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or 11, is that the first time you heard of it from anybody, 11 pounds? Is that a new number to you?
I don't understand your question.
Well, you're saying that when Attorney Jackson asked you where did Brennan get those numbers from, you said, I don't know. Remember that on
Correct.
Friday? Do you know where I got the number 11 pounds from?
11.8
Yeah.
or 11?
11.
As I just mentioned, last year, I believe I testified in a previous proceeding that it was about 11 pounds.
Yes. Your testimony.
Gonna try to fix the feed here. Sorry.
Prior.
Previous proceeding that it was about 11 pounds.
Yeah.
Hold on. Sorry, that was actually my fault. The feed stuck like while Hank was talking at one point, but did unfreeze, and then it was actually me. So, DJ, I just want to apologize. I inadvertently gaslit you. It was actually my fault.
Your testimony, 11 pounds. Your prior testimony, right?
Yes,
You testified before under oath in this case, didn't you?
correct.
And when you testified under oath, and you were giving a general estimate about the pounds of Mr. O'Keefe's arm, based on your experience and your training, you said it was around 11 pounds. Those are your words, right?
Correct, yes.
Under oath.
Yes.
Right. You can't delete something that's under oath, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
And so when you feigned confusion on Friday about this 11 pounds,
Objection.
Sustained.
so when you answered questions last Friday about wherever this 11.8 pounds came from, you weren't so confused about that because you've used 11 pounds before yourself, haven't you?
Yes, but again, I don't know where you got that 11.8 from, so.
Well, we just did the math, didn't we?
Yes,
Okay. And you used the calculator to help you, didn't you?
I did,
The
yes.
calculator works.
Yes.
Okay. You said you wouldn't calculate the difference, but you did. And so what you just went through this exercise is you divided that difference, that 2.48 pound difference, right?
Correct.
And then you divided it by 11.86. Divide 2.48 by from the 9.38.
Okay,
What percentage do you get?
26.
Would you agree with this statement about whether the arm and body weight, comparing the weight of the head to the arm, would you agree that the head and arm are actually almost identical because your arm, just one of your arms, including the hand, forearm, and upper arm, is about 5% of your total body weight? So for someone who weighs 216 pounds, that's about 10.8 pounds. Would you agree with that?
I didn't do that calculation, so I
Didn't ask you. I'm asking if you would agree with that.
can you repeat the question, please?
Objection, Your Honor.
So ask the question.
Does the arm weight weigh the same as the head? Or the arm does weigh the same as the head, almost identical because your arm, just one of the arms, including the hand, forearm, and upper arm, is about 5% of your total body weight. So for someone who weighs 216 pounds, that comes out to about 10.8 pounds. Would you agree with that?
I haven't done the calculation, but if the math checks, then yes.
Okay. Would you agree with this statement? The heavier the object, if it gets hit center mass, that's going to be even greater force because that is more mass than just 11 pounds. So the acceleration is the same for each body part. It just depends on the weight of the body part and how heavy it is to determine the force that's actually exerted on the body. Do you agree with that?
Objection.
I'm
Source.
going to allow the question.
Do you agree with that?
Yes, and I think I described that a little bit earlier, is you would increase the mass, you multiply it by the acceleration, that's going to increase your force. Force is equal to mass times acceleration.
Right. So mass has a direct correlation to force. You agree?
Correct.
So therefore, the heavier the object, if it's colliding at the same speed, will create more force than a lighter object. You'd agree with that, wouldn't you?
Correct, more force on the arm, yes.
Right. So weight matters, doesn't it, sir?
Yes.
Force is mass times acceleration. So if the arm weighs the same as the head, you're still going to get the same force. And so inevitably, you change the mass, you change the weight, same speed, it changes the amount of force.
Correct, yes.
Yeah. Okay. When you did calculations in this case, you never took the estimate of 11 pounds, although it didn't exactly calculate the 5.48. You never took that 11 pounds and determined the percentage difference between the mass in that arm and the mass in a 9.38 pound arm, did you?
No, I did not.
You didn't include it in any of your PowerPoints.
No.
You didn't explain it to the jury that there's a difference and weight matters.
Again, that's something that Dr. Rentschler is going to discuss.
I'm asking you because you testified, you gave opinions, you got a PowerPoint. Did you explain to the jury about the difference in force when there's a change in weight? When you did all your PowerPoint and calculations, did you break it down for them?
Well, I think it was certainly stated. I mean, I know that we went over Newton's second law, force is equal to mass times acceleration, right? So if you increase that mass number, it will increase the force.
When you were putting up your PowerPoints with the speeds, did you explain to us that there's a difference when you changed the mass so that if you used a lighter arm, there would be a difference in force? Did you explain that to us in any of your slides?
I don't know that I explicitly stated it, but again, that's why we went up to 29 miles per hour to account for that difference in weight.
Were you trying to inflate the force for the speed of test so it looked like the collision had to happen at a faster speed to cause a certain amount of damage? Were you doing that intentionally?
No.
You didn't overstate the mass. You didn't use an arm that was 14 pounds that would have created the opposite illusion, right? You used a weight that was lighter than Mr. O'Keefe's estimated arm.
Right, because again, it goes both ways. If you increase the mass of the arm, you increase the force on the arm. So there's going to be more force acting on the arm.
Let's talk about your studies with Mr. O'Keefe's sweatshirt and his arm, and you gave some opinions about what you would expect for damage to his arm. When I asked you on Friday whether you had any support, any vetted journals, learned treatise, any support whatsoever about whether you should use a crash test dummy arm for these types of studies, you didn't have any support on Friday. Do you have any today that you can refer to?
No.
Putting aside the fact that you have absolutely no professional studies or journals to support that you should be using a crash test dummies arm for these type of tests, are you aware of the expert literature in this case that the opposite, you specifically should not use crash test dummies when you're trying to do this type of analysis on clothing and a person's body? Are you aware whether that exists?
I'm not aware of those studies, no.
As a inquisitive engineer, wouldn't you want to know if there was legitimate studies in your work, in your profession, that suggests or states that you should not be using crash test dummies to determine injury to the arm as far as lacerations? Would you want to know that?
I think, again, you're getting confused between my role and Dr. Rentschler. Can I finish, please?
No.
Objection.
Okay, so,
No.
no comment, Mr. Brennan. Answer the question, please.
I wasn't addressing the lacerations or the abrasions to the arm, sir.
You had photographs and you were opining that you would have expected or you would not expect there to be abrasions or cuts on that clothing in your test A and B, didn't you?
There were no holes or cuts in the material, no.
I understand, but you offered opinions. Didn't you offer to the jury an opinion that the abrasions on Mr. O'Keefe's arm were inconsistent with your tests in A and B?
The cuts and the holes are inconsistent.
Sir, when you are assessing cuts and holes on clothing, you need to make sure the predicate as a basis that you're using the right properties, right?
I would agree with that.
Right. And so if there was literature directing that you should not use a crash test dummy to assess injury on an arm, would you follow that instruction or would you do it anyways?
Again, you keep saying injury to the arm. I was looking at what happens to the material when it makes contact with the taillight.
A crash test dummy's arm is harder than a human arm, isn't it?
Yes.
You push a human arm, it's like an indent. You can push in, can't you?
Yes.
And that property of pushing in, if a cloth is on it, it is easier for a cloth to tear pushing in than if it's hard. Isn't it?
I don't know that I agree with that.
Well, do you disagree with that?
Well, the hybrid arm is a vinyl flesh, so it's not rigid.
Do you disagree with what I just said?
Can you repeat your question?
Sure. Human arm, softer than the hybrid, yes?
Yes.
When you push it, you can push in, much different than the hybrid arm, which is stiffer, yes?
I don't know what you mean by much different, but there will be a difference, yes.
Well, is it a noticeable difference to you if you push a hybrid arm as opposed to a human arm?
Yes.
When you push a human arm, it indents, yes?
Correct.
And so if you push with cloth on, the cloth indents, yes?
Correct.
Which creates an easier, tear in the fabric with less force if you can push in as opposed to a hard arm. Would you agree or disagree with that?
I would agree with that.
So when you're replicating studies and giving opinions about a person's arm, a real person's arm, using a hybrid arm doesn't seem to be an appropriate standard, does it?
I don't agree with that because, again, when the taillight breaks in the test, the arm is now moving with that taillight. So it's, again, like we talked about on Friday, you'd somehow have to have those fragments accelerating at a greater velocity to penetrate that.
We're going to get to that, but I'm talking about the stiffness. Let's get back to the appropriateness of using a crash test dummy. Now conceding that a human that pushes different than the crash test dummy, would you agree that a crash test dummy is not an appropriate tool to use when determining tears in clothing on somebody's arm? Would you agree?
I don't think I would agree with that, no.
When you used the crash test dummy in test A and B, that was the 5'9" dummy?
Yes.
When you considered tears to clothing, you bought a new sweatshirt that was similar to Mr. O'Keefe's, an extra large sweatshirt?
Don't know if I recall the exact size, but I think one of them might have been extra large.
And then you bought a second one that was medium. So when you used the smaller dummy, you weren't actually using Mr. O'Keefe's size of extra large. You used a medium sweatshirt, yes?
Yes.
Because it was a smaller dummy than the size of Mr. O'Keefe. That's why you needed a smaller sweatshirt, yes?
I think it was more or less just what we could get our hands on.
Well, you had an extra large and a medium. You didn't put the extra large on in test A and B, did you?
I don't recall off the top of my head what sizes were on each test.
Okay, could we show a picture of A to remind Dr. Wolf? And while she's pulling that up, is there a difference between, see that's how that's blue? You see that's medium?
Yes.
So the blue ones that you use for test A and B, correct?
Correct.
The smaller crash test dummy than Mr. O'Keefe, the 5'9" crash test dummy, yes?
Correct.
And then when you used Randy and brought him into the scene, you used the extra large, the gray one.
Correct.
Right, so you used a different one because it was a smaller anatomical doll than the size of Mr. O'Keefe, yes?
We used different sizes. The material blend was the same.
This was new.
Correct.
The extra large you put on Randy was new.
Correct.
Did you consider the wear and tear on Mr. O'Keefe's sweatshirt, the extra large sweatshirt he was wearing that night?
The wear and tear?
Yes, the wear and tear.
No.
Did you ever consider the differences between a brand new sweatshirt and one that had been worn?
No.
Had you ever had clothing, sweatshirt you used repeatedly, maybe put in the dryer, wears it down? Sometimes you can get holes more easily. Did you do any type of analysis on that whatsoever?
No, I don't allow that.
Any type of analysis whatsoever on the age or whether it's stretched the same, anything like that?
No.
No variables whatsoever on the sweater, did you?
No.
Okay. Does it matter whether or not the sweatshirt is tighter or looser or how it fits the body? Is that any part of your consideration?
No.
Have you ever done testing like this before for clothing?
In terms of impacting a taillight?
Yes.
No.
So this is the first time ever that you've done this type of analysis and offered an opinion in front of a jury on this?
Specific to impacting an arm with a taillight, yes.
Before you decided to come in and give an opinion, did you take any study or look at any journals on fabrics?
No.
Did you consider any of the variables that one would want to consider regarding fabrics before you came in and gave this opinion?
No.
Did it concern you when you were coming in to give a professional opinion about something you've never done before, whether or not you were studied in the area before you did it?
Well, I think I relayed my observations from the test, right? I certainly explained how we set up the arm, how the arm was closed. You all obviously saw the impact testing to the arm, so I'm relaying my observations from the test that we did.
Did it concern you that you were coming in to give an opinion on something you have never done before, and that you did absolutely no study on fabrics or any of other people's analysis on fabrics in cutting? Did that concern you?
No.
So you were comfortable just coming in with no experience in this whatsoever, without even studying or doing any research? You were comfortable to come in and just throw out an opinion?
No, again, and Dr. Rentschler is going to address part of this. Again, we worked as a team, so there's a synergy between the two of us.
Well, putting aside the synergy, you're the one on the stand under oath, yeah?
Correct.
You're the one testifying, giving opinions to this jury, yes?
Yes.
You're the one asking them to rely on your experience and training, true?
Correct.
You're the one asking them to rely on your judgment and your effort to be accurate, yes?
Yes.
So when you give the opinion, you have a personal responsibility to support that opinion. Putting aside Dr. Welcher or Dr. Rentschler, you have a responsibility for your opinion, don't you?
I would generally agree with that, yes.
Generally?
Yes.
Well, when wouldn't you? When would not be general? Don't you have an obligation every single time you take the stand and give an opinion to be supported, valued, vetted?
Yes,
Every single time?
and again, Dr. Rentschler is addressing those abrasions and lacerations, which certainly correspond to the material.
But you didn't wait for Dr. Rentschler. You offered a number of opinions to this jury. You personally, under your name, you came in and presented yourself as an expert in this subject. You, didn't you?
Correct.
So putting aside Dr. Rentschler, his opinions, do you stand behind your opinions?
Yes.
Okay. And you do that despite the fact you've done no study, no research, haven't vetted, and have no authority whatsoever?
Yes.
You wrote a report back on February 12, 2024.
Correct.
In February 12, 2024, do you remember talking about injuries to the arm and damage to the taillight?
Generally, yes.
Okay, that's fair. Do you remember writing in a report, it is significant to note that the injuries have been classified as abrasions and analysis of the autopsy photographs indicates minimal bleeding or lacerations of the dermis?
So the report that you're referring to is a joint report authored by myself, Dr. Rentschler, and Mr. Scott Klein. So that would have been a portion drafted by Dr. Rentschler addressing the injuries.
I see. So in this report, it has your name, Dr. Rentschler, and another person, Scott Klein, yes?
Correct.
But in the report, none of you ever differentiate which opinions you're standing behind or somebody else's, right?
Objection.
I'll move on.
The objection sustained.
I'll move on.
The objection is sustained.
Did you agree with that?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you write or endorse these injuries would not result from impact with a non-damaged tail lamp cover and the amount of force required to fracture the tail light cover?
So I'm going to see you inside.
All right. Now you know the best thing about recaps. Who's ready to time travel? Who's ready to what's going on here? Give me a little second. Little towels. We are at sidebar. By the way, it is not your fault that this keeps freezing. It's just I have upset the towel stream. I have upset it greatly, ladies and gentlemen. I have made the towel stream upset. it's not freezing, but you just get to stare at Dr. Wolf's face for a little while, because sometimes I click away from the stream and it's like, no, I'm going to save computer resources by not streaming the video. But I have a plan. I've put the video back up at the front of the stream. Murder by Maestro, at the end of the month, my friend, I think we have to have a talk about ordering my streaming PC for our next trials. We need to pick what trials we're going to cover. Oh, that's Tara! And Miss O'Keefe, did you know Miss O'Keefe was informed by John DePietro, that she is the mother of all towels? Also, Hank Brennan is a towel.
You were asked questions about impact with the taillight. And in fact, in one of your answers to me today, you talked about after a vehicle collides with a pedestrian, there's continued movement between the vehicle and the pedestrian, isn't there?
Correct.
And so while glass or plastic that shatters from a taillight might not impale clothes of the skin, would you agree, if your dummy wasn't restrained, when the Lexus collides with the dummy, there'd be continued contact for some time, extended contact between both the dummy and the taillight?
Well, the arm, as is demonstrated in the test, would be moving at roughly the same velocity as the vehicle.
Yes. And don't you think that the vehicle would continue to drag the arm until the body either was thrown or spun off? Would you agree with that?
At some point, they will separate, yes.
At some point, but before the at some point. What I'm asking is, at the collision, when you see all the taillights shatter, right, wouldn't the Lexus, if it continues at that speed, say 24 miles per hour, for example, it would continue to drag with that dummy's arm longer than is shown in those experiments because the dummy is restrained?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yes. Would you agree that if a Lexus is backed up at 24 miles per hour and hits the dummy's arm and the taillight shatters, if the dummy wasn't restrained and moved regularly, it would extend the contact between that shattered taillight and the dummy's arm? Do you agree with that?
It would move with the vehicle until it got pushed out of the way, just move to the side,
And
yes.
so what you're saying is it would move with the vehicle but wouldn't touch the vehicle?
Well, in the one test, if you remember, because of the restitution effects, the arm reached a speed of over what the impact speed is. So in some instances, it actually might move at a speed greater than the vehicle.
Fantastic. In some instances, would it move slower and be dragged by the vehicle's broken taillight?
Dragged?
Yeah,
I don't know
so
if
when
I
say
understand.
drag, push. How about we use the word push? Pushed by the broken taillight. Could that happen?
The arm would move with the taillight until it moves out of the way.
So you're saying it would move with or faster, but never would slow down where it gets pushed by the car?
It's moving with the vehicle, sir. I don't understand your question.
Well, no. You said it moved with the vehicle. Sometimes it moves even faster, suggesting space between the broken taillight and the arm. That's what you're suggesting, right?
Correct.
So it can move with, it can move faster. Can it ever move slower and the vehicle pushes and drags against the arm?
I mean, it might be able to move a few miles per hour if it doesn't have as much of a center of mass hit, but it's still going to move out of the way because it's on a joint.
I understand, but before it moves out of the way, could it be pushed by that broken taillight? That's the simple question I'm asking you. Could it be pushed by the broken taillight?
Just moving adjacent with the taillight, just moving along. Yes.
Would you agree with this? If you have an arm struck at 25 miles per hour, significant more damage that taillight shatters, hits and moves forward into arms, parts of taillight pushed into arm as vehicle pushes forward and pushes arm out of the way. So the word push, would you agree with that general characterization that the broken taillight can, in fact, push the arm? Would you agree with that?
Generally, I guess, again, it would move with the vehicle, the arm together.
Not move with. I'm asking you if you would agree about pushing. Would you agree with that?
As long as we're on the same page about it, it's pushing the arm, but it's with the vehicle. They're moving together. So, but in essence, yes, the arm is being pushed due to the fact that there's a force on it.
And the pushing could have that arm in contact with the broken pieces of a taillight if the taillight broke, correct?
Just moving at a common velocity?
The operative word here is push. And so, do you like to agree with me or you could disagree with me? Can the broken taillight push the arm so it contacts and provides force against it? Could that happen?
Yes.
When you were showing those photographs today regarding Test F, now you used Randy in Test F, right?
Correct.
How tall is Randy?
He's 6 feet.
And he weighs 200 pounds?
Correct.
So still 16 pounds less than Mr. O'Keefe, yes?
Correct.
And you keep referring to Randy as a crash test dummy. Randy's no dummy, right? He's a mannequin.
He is, but he signifies basically what happens when you have 200 pounds of mass striking the rear of that vehicle.
Right. I don't want to misrepresent Randy. He's not a crash test dummy, is he?
Well, it wasn't used for biofidelic purposes. It was to, again, what happens when you have 200 pounds of mass strike the vehicle.
So when you've been referring to Randy as a crash test dummy, you don't mean to do that. That's a misnomer, isn't it?
I don't know that I agree with that.
So you think that Randy is a crash test dummy? He's a certified, approved crash test dummy.
No, and I think I made it very clear that there is no instrumentation on it, right? And one of the reasons why I mentioned that is those ATD dummies are $150,000, so we're not going to risk impacting it with the Lexus and destroying that.
I can understand the cost analysis for you, but I want to be clear. He's a mannequin. It's used by firefighters and drills pulling a body, dead weight, out of a house to replicate certain scenarios. That's what Randy was made for, yes?
He can be used for those, yes.
Right. He's not a crash test dummy in the parlance of a legitimate, studied crash test dummy, is he?
I don't agree with that because, again, we use that type of dummy in all different types of tests.
There's an H395M PED, which most closely replicates John O'Keefe's size and body, isn't there?
Correct.
You didn't have that when you did the test, did you?
No.
When you do crash tests, you can put a magnetic control on the crash test dummy, so upon impact, it releases and is thrown. You could do that, couldn't you?
That is one way, yes.
Right. So that way you don't have to put the dummy on a forklift, and then it creates a different scenario than real life, correct?
That could be one way that you could do it, yes.
It doesn't impede any roll or drag when the dummy's hit. That's one reason you would do that rather than a forklift, yes?
Correct.
Also, it might show some throw, which could lead to other type of damage like holes in clothes, yes?
Correct.
But you didn't use the magnet, you used a forklift.
Because again, the purpose of the test was to evaluate, we talked a lot about those time frames, right? That 10 millisecond window. It's to look at, from the vehicle damage perspective, what happens to the taillight, right, in that interaction. And then ultimately, what is the acceleration that the arm experiences in that 10, 15 millisecond window, right? What happens 1 second after, 2 seconds after? Again, that wasn't of concern for me in my analysis.
You didn't use a magnet, you used a forklift, right?
Correct.
And when Randy went for a ride, you didn't expect him to break off the string and slide across the street, did you?
We didn't expect him to?
You didn't expect him to be thrown. You didn't expect the string on the forklift to break and then Randy to go flying. You didn't expect that, did you?
Oh, I certainly expected that.
So you expected a throw with that?
Yes.
Okay. And the street has hard concrete and it has a lot of irregularities to it, doesn't it?
It's asphalt, yes.
Yes. In the photos that you were shown today on redirect examination, did the defense show them to you during your direct examination? Any of those?
No.
Ms. Gilman, can you pull up that last exhibit with Randy on the ground? I think it's exhibit 221. Okay. And so this is Randy, right, doctor?
Yes.
Zoom in a little bit, please. What's that red thing near his shoe?
Appears to be a fragment of the taillight.
Can you zoom out? Could you go back an exhibit to the one before? Could you zoom in? Did you see any taillight fragments on his body or in his clothes?
I can't tell from here.
Could we have the exhibit before, please? Can you tell from here?
Yes.
And finding taillight fragments on the clothes after a collision, that's not unique, is it?
Unique? No,
Yeah.
it's possible.
Well, according to this, it's probable, yes?
In this test, that did occur, yes.
Could we have exhibit 201D, please? Do you know what this is, doctor? Did you see this picture in your analysis?
Don't know if I recall that specific photograph.
Do you know this is taillight shards found in Mr. O'Keefe's clothing?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you consider this photograph during your analysis before you gave your opinions regarding cuts and tears and lacerations?
No, sir.
Can you take that down, please? When you did your analysis, did you know that a drinking straw was found on the concrete on the street in front of 34 Fairview?
I don't know if it was on the concrete, it might have been on the asphalt, but I do recall a drinking straw, yes.
Did you know that there was a glass found near Mr. O'Keefe? Could you put that up, please, Cindy?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you talked about cuts and injuries. Did you?
Sustained. It sounds like it's beyond the scope.
Very well. When you did test D, did you say the peak acceleration was 780 Gs?
Your Honor, may I refer to my notes?
Yes.
Page 11 of your report.
I think I lost an exhibit. Okay.
Is that what you described it as?
For test D,
Yes.
the acceleration of, we talking about the hand?
Yes.
780 Gs, yes.
780 Gs. Okay. When you did your comparison before you gave your opinions, you showed us a scuff on the exemplar vehicle, photo 77.
Objection.
Beyond the scope, Mr. Kearney.
A few more questions, Dr. Wolf. You showed us holes in Randy's sweatshirt from test F. You remember that?
Yes.
And you talked about what you would or wouldn't expect in a collision as far as holes. And did you say something like that was inconsistent with Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes.
That's what you said on redirect, right?
Correct.
Okay. Did you consider whether there were holes in Mr. O'Keefe's sweatshirt separate from the holes in the arm?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yes. When you were making that opinion about consistent or inconsistent, did you ever consider whether there were holes in Mr. O'Keefe's sweatshirt other than the right arm?
Well, I know that there was cutting to the.
May I approach and retrieve the exhibit, Your Honor?
Yes.
Excuse me, sir.
I have a plan.
Did you ever look at the back of the sweatshirt to see if there was any holes to the back of the sweatshirt other than the right arm when you formed your opinion?
I don't recall.
Take a look at the back. Do you see other holes on the back of Mr. O'Keefe's sweatshirt?
It appears I see one hole.
Let me get a little closer so you can get a better look. I'll direct you to here, 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 here. Do you see more than one hole in the back of Mr. O'Keefe's sweatshirt?
Yes.
When you were forming your opinions that the collision would be inconsistent to damage to Mr. O'Keefe's sweatshirt, did you consider that Mr. O'Keefe may have fallen or landed on his back?
Well, in looking at those holes, they're inconsistent with road rash. And again, to get those kind of holes, you have to have prolonged sliding contact on a rough surface.
Did you consider that Mr. O'Keefe may have fallen or landed on his back?
Well, if you just fall and land on your back, you're not going to be sliding to get those abrasions and tearing. And again, those are not consistent with road rash.
Didn't ask that question. Did you consider?
Sorry,
Did you consider whether Mr. O'Keefe had fallen or landed on his back?
No.
Did you know about or consider the multiple holes on the back of his sweatshirt when you came and formulated your opinions?
No.
You did no studies whatsoever about the damage to the sweatshirt if he fell or landed on the cold, hard ground and had broken taillight shards in his clothing, did you?
No.
I have no further questions.
Yeah, just a moment, Your Honor.
And this is where the recess happens, because they ask for a recess, and then you'll see the mistrial argument. I want to watch it happen, though. Sorry, the feed froze earlier. Oh, of course, Troy. Listen, as long as you're respectful, we're happy to have you, Troy. Some people might be a little bit, they might needle you a little bit, Troy, but you're in the lion's den. What do you want me to say?
Mr. Brennan,
The towel's den.
give me one name,
Hold on one
very
second.
dramatically, of someone
The objection sustained.
you were asked to give me one name to support using a 50 percentile hybrid 3 in testing forces on a 216-pound man. Do you remember that question?
Yes.
How about
Hold
the
on one
name
second.
Judson Welcher?
Recess, so hold on, watch this. I'm jumping forward a little bit so we don't have to listen to the Jackson bloviate.
Please rise for the jury. Right this way.
Okay, now we're going to come back into session. Hold on. This only takes a second. All right, here we go.
All right, so we're not going to do the voir dire right now of Dr. Lapasada because everybody needs a break. What we'll do is we'll take the 20-minute recess. Who's doing the director, Dr. Leposado? Is that you, Mr. Jackson? Yes. All right. So what I would ask you to do is not do anything on your direct examination with Dr. Leposado that involves the mention of dog bites or the evidence regarding motor vehicle experience, because we still need to have the voir dire. But I don't want the jury sitting out there any longer than need be, at least until the luncheon break. So without that, how long will it take you? Can you use the hour?
I can get for credentials, but Your Honor, half of her credentials are the fact that she's an expert in dog bites and an expert in motor vehicles. I can give her education, training, background. But
Okay, is that all in? Is that all in her resume?
it's all in her. It's all going to be in her direct examination.
No. My question is it in her resume? Has the Commonwealth received notice regarding the dog bite stuff?
The Commonwealth has received the same resume that the court has received. And I don't know specifically what her resume says about dog bites. I don't think it says the word dog bites anywhere in her resume. No. We have absolutely no notice. But the courses that reference dog bites are listed here.
Say that again.
The courses that reference her teaching dog bite issue and pattern recognition, they're listed in the resume.
All right. We'll see you at 12.
All right, so now we're going to jump forward. Also, I feel very guilty, friends. Someone asked yesterday if I could set up a forwarding email. They wanted to send me a gift. If that was you, if you hear this, I'm so sorry if I failed to set up the forwarding email. I pinned it in the chat yesterday. I'm going to go actually back and read the whole chat until I find when someone asked me that, so I can remember your username when you pop up again. I promise you. Yeah, I promise you I will make a Gmail that is just to receive mail from you all. I promise you all I will do that. I feel so guilty because so many of you have been asking, how can I reach out? I don't have social media. I promise you, friends, I'm going to figure out a way for us to have a general inbox. I will set it up. Yeah, no, and you can use that. Like, if you think about what my name is and send me a Gmail, I'll get it. But yes, in my Grant Smith Ellis name. But yes, we're going to work on it. We are going to figure it out. Little towels. My name is Grant Smith Ellis, by the way, and we're going to continue our recap, my dear friends. So we are going to jump forward because this is where the mistrial, this is the end of our recap though. The mistrial argument happens, the defense loses, and then we're going to see the end of the day. We're going to talk about scheduling. This case is going to be over by the end of the week, folks. Oh, umpire's bad call. It was you. Okay, murder by maestro. Okay, can we do this? Umpire's bad call. You can email me, grantsmithellis@gmail.com. Okay? I'll get your email, and then we can communicate directly. Umpire's bad call. I love your username. Literally, you warmed my little towel heart by popping up right there. I promise you I would have been all night been like, oh no, I forgot that person. So grantsmithellis@gmail.com. No spaces, and I will be able to communicate with you directly. Umpire's bad call. You are such a kind person, and I thought about that all day. Oh goodness! But yes, we're gonna watch the. We're gonna watch this right now, ladies and gentlemen. Now people know how to contact Towel. I have a general use inbox. Murder by Maestro reminded me I already did this. So anyway, we are gonna watch the mistrial argument. This goes very bad for the Reed defense. I saw Bailey is in the chat. Hello, Bailey. I am a towel. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited. Here we go. We're going to watch the Reed defense lose a mistrial motion. Second, they're getting so desperate with these mistrial motions, ladies and gentlemen. The Reed defense knows this jury is going to convict. The jury is literally getting frustrated because they can't get the case because they want to convict. Oh, goodness, ladies and gentlemen. And remember, there's 18 jurors. 12 of them are going to get picked for deliberation. I don't think Karen likes her chances, ladies and gentlemen. Let's keep listening.
All right, so I'm told counsel wanted to see me.
Your Honor, this issue has arisen related to the cross-examination or re-cross-examination of the last witness, and Mr. Alessi would like to address the court in detail about that.
All right, so the last witness was your witness. Is there a reason?
This is a separate issue, and I'm asking Mr. Alessi to address the court on this.
Okay. What do you want to tell me, Mr. Leslie?
Bear with me a moment, Your Honor. I need to put on evidence gloves. Your Honor, the defense moves for a mistrial with prejudice based upon intentional misconduct that just occurred before the court and for the jury. And what I'd like to do, Your Honor, this regards the hoodie, and this regards questioning and representations in questioning by Mr. Brennan. And what I'd like to and need to do, Your Honor, is to have 2 documents marked as exhibits, and then I am going to use Exhibit 88, which is an evidence, which is the hoodie, which is why I'm putting on the evidence gloves, and it will become quite obvious very shortly what the issues are.
All right, so what are the things that you want to have marked?
What I would like to have marked the first document, and I want to get the specific title. These 2 documents are from the criminalist's file, specifically Ms. Maureen Hartnett's notes regarding cuttings from the hoodie sweatshirt that's in the crime lab file folder.
Okay.
So the first is the back of the hoodie. So with Your Honor's permission, I would have that marked for identification.
Exhibit YYY. Friday.
And may I see that, please? Okay.
That is the back of the hoodie, Your Honor. And if I could please have the next marked in order exhibit for identification.
Exhibit ZZZ for the identification.
Give me a minute to read this, Mr. Leslie.
Yes, Your Honor.
So is it that there are no holes in the back? There were no holes in the back of the sweatshirt?
That's only part of it, but that is in fact the case, Your Honor.
Okay. I can't tell entirely from ZZZ, but if that's your argument, why, for identification appears to support that.
Your Honor, may I have the exhibits marked for identification back for my argument?
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Madam Court. Your Honor, what we just saw is Attorney Brennan question Dr. Wolf with regard to the hoodie sweatshirt that heretofore has been in the plastic casing for trial. And this is the, what happened was Attorney Brennan held up the casing with a hoodie sweatshirt, went to the back of the hoodie sweatshirt. First point to note, Mr. Brennan did not show Mr. Jackson the back of the hoodie sweatshirt, didn't give Mr. Jackson an opportunity to look at it.
Can I just ask a question? I noticed that it was over here at the witness stand this morning. So I assumed everyone was aware that something was going to happen with it. Is that not the case, Mr. Jackson?
That is not the case, Your Honor.
Okay.
The first time I realized that line
Okay.
of question was going to be asked was when Mr. Brennan pulled the casing out.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Leslie.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, to do it in order, Mr. Brennan takes the hoodie sweatshirt in the casing without notice, shows it to Dr. Wolf, and shows the back of the hoodie, which has certain holes, and I'm
I want to leave Bob frozen like that, but I'm not going to do it to him.
going to limit calling them holes to do this chronologically. I'm going to refer to exactly what they are in moments.
Okay, so I need to see it. I know you've got gloves on. Where is it right now? It would help me if you held it up for me now,
Absolutely, Your
Mr.
Honor.
Leslie.
So here is the back
Okay.
of the hoodie.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
It's very obvious that these are cutting holes cut by the criminalist. And I'm going to get to back to this in a moment. But I would like to do it and certainly entertain any of Your Honor's questions, but in a logical order.
Sure. So I'm not. What about the jurors and lunch? How long do you think this will be?
I think this will take about 10 to 15 minutes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Leslie.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I just want to get the flow back going here in the logic. So, and I'll do it quickly. So Mr. Brennan grabs the hoodie sweatshirt inside the casing, doesn't show it to Attorney Jackson, goes up, we have no idea that this was going to happen, goes up, confronts the witness, Dr. Wolf, shows the back of the hoodie sweatshirt. To my knowledge, the first time the back has been referenced of the hoodie sweatshirt, shows Dr. Wolf, confronts him, and basically says, couldn't these holes be caused, and I'm paraphrasing, from a fall backwards? Obviously positing in the juror's mind after, remember, we just saw all kinds of videos with regard to Rescue Randy and impact at 24, 29 miles an hour, more aptly 29 miles per hour, and damage to the hoodie, etc. So what then happens is Dr. Wolf is asked a series of questions, very much with the indication that somehow, in the clear implication, that these holes are being caused by road rash, and that the holes in the back of the hoodie sweatshirt, Exhibit 88, could have been or likely were caused with regard to some type of impact. Clearly presented to the jurors with that in mind in that questioning. Here is the basis for the mistrial with prejudice. Those holes in the back of the hoodie sweatshirt are clearly, unequivocally, without doubt, caused nothing to do with any type of event on or about January 29, 2022.
So do you have something you said, when you said obviously cut by the criminalist, do you have something that shows that chart that I couldn't understand quickly? Is it on that? Does
Yes,
that do
Your
the
Honor.
back?
What
Okay.
we have is two documents to show that.
Right. So the second one, when was that provided?
These, when you say provided, you mean with regard to when did the defense get these in
Yes.
a discovery? Let me get the date, Your Honor.
Sure.
Notice of discovery, May 2023.
Okay, thank you.
And I will note, Exhibit YYY. The only, I believe, I'm holding up YYY, which is the back of the hoodie, I believe, is the only one, to my knowledge, not put into evidence, not turned into evidence. This is the one that it clearly shows the hoodie before the criminalist started her work with the cuts. There are no cuts to why, and if we need to, we'll bring Ms. Hartnett in to confirm.
All right, so is ZZZ in evidence?
ZZZ is not in evidence, and that is part of the basis for the mistrial. It is no coincidence that these two documents are not in evidence, because if they were in evidence, they would clearly have prevented the stunt that we just saw occur with regard to Dr. Wolf. So that is part of the intentional misconduct, Your Honor, is these are documents from the criminalist's file. It's the Commonwealth's documents. And it is very clear when you go to Exhibit ZZZ, the cuts that the criminalist made to the back of the hoodie are specified.
So where on that? Because when I quickly looked at it, I didn't see it. What does it say? Go ahead and read it to me, please.
It's item number 7. I'll read it from the top. LIMS 22-2184. Analyst MSH, which is the initials for Ms. Hartnett. Dates: May 11, 2022, May 12, 2023, and then May 18, 2023. And what she does is she's got the...
You know what? Can you bring it up to me, please?
I certainly can, Your Honor. And I can conduct my argument from right here if that helps, Your Honor.
I just want to point out to me where it says, where it shows the back.
This is the back. So you can see the back of the hoodie. That's the back of the hoodie head. And then you can see the various... Let me just get a check on this, Your Honor. I'm not...
Mr. Brennan, you should come up and look at this as well.
Thank you.
And I'm
So, Mr. Leslie's taking it.
yes.
All right, so this is why. I didn't see where Ms. Hackett said that she had it on. It was shown here, Mr. Leslie says exterior front.
Can I get the check?
Pause.
Pardon me?
Unpause.
But if I can, Your Honor, I want to clarify this. Yes, are you willing just to... Let me just make sure I get...
Mr. Jackson, it says exterior front, what Mr. Leslie was pointing me to.
Well, just a second. It may have printed the wrong page. I can do it, but Mr. Wolf, can you print the back? And then, Your Honor, are you comfortable using the computer at the back? Because I think we just had the wrong one.
We need to mark it, though.
Understood. We will. He's printing it right now. We printed. We wanted to have the front and the back to show all the cuttings, but what only printed out was the front. We are now printing the back. Your Honor is correct. But maybe, Your Honor, I'm advised it'll take 2 minutes because it has to go through.
So go ahead with your argument.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Your Honor, what is being printed is which we will mark, will be the front of the hoodie. The purpose of Exhibit ZZZ and the one that is being printed is to show and to give the court, and we're going to request to give to the jury the complete picture and the complete true story about these holes in the hoodie that were presented as if they were caused in some manner by something else other than the
So
criminals.
that seems perfectly reasonable, and I'd be inclined to do that.
I appreciate that, Your Honor. And here is the reason for the motion for a mistrial with prejudice. On its own, to do this, and you put together all of the parts of what just occurred. You start with the fact that and if I could, Your Honor, now that I have it yet marked so I can then refer to it.
All right.
Thank you.
Can he print extra copies too, so I can have my own copy?
Absolutely.
And for the Commonwealth to see?
And I'm going to show the Commonwealth what I just printed.
Exhibit A.
Thank you, Madam Court Reporter. Sure. And here's another document, chain of custody document. Welcome. Well, Mr. Brennan is reviewing that. We may head to Madam Court Reporter, the chain of custody document for these, and that's that be marked as the next exhibit in order.
Okay.
And then with Your Honor's permission, I would have Madam Court Reporter hand them both up to Your Honor so
Sure.
Your Honor can see what I'm referencing.
Thank you.
Exhibit B for ID.
Thank you.
Here's, thank you, Madam Court Reporter.
Do you need this, Mr. Leslie?
I do not need either of them, Your Honor, and I have the extra copies as well. Okay, so Your Honor, I now have enough copies for Your Honor and for the Commonwealth.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
So if I could have one set, that would be great. Yeah, Your Honor. Thank you.
I still do not have ZZ's. All right. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Leslie.
So, Your Honor, to do this quickly chronologically, so we have a hoodie sweatshirt that was brought into the criminalist, Ms. Hartnett, with the back of the hoodie with no holes on it. The criminalist makes cuts to the back of the hoodie, makes cuts to the front of the hoodie. The exhibit, Your Honor, depicts those. There's a chain of custody document that describes the chain of custody for the hoodie and the cuts in the chronology. And of course, we have Exhibit 88, which is the hoodie. So, what Mr. Brennan did, and I'm now pulling Exhibit 88, he holds up the back of the hoodie, which has cuts in the back from the criminalist, somebody from the Commonwealth, a witness in this case, Ms. Hartnett, she's testified, and Mr. Brennan has indicated he wants her to come back and testify, which we welcome. And now what we have is we have holes in the back of the sweatshirt that were dramatically held up to and confronted with Dr. Wolf, and then the jury sees it. With the clear, unmistakable, purposeful intention of having the jury conclude that these holes could have come from events on January 29th of 2022, when in fact the Commonwealth well knows from its own documents, from its own criminalist, that those holes in the back were caused by their criminalist as part of their examination and sampling of the hoodie. What could be more egregious? What could be more misleading than that? And what could be more important for a context than the alleged collision that never occurred? That's the topic before some of the most significant and probative witnesses in this trial that the Commonwealth has been attacking from the jump of pretrial. They picked the most opportune, sensitive time to pull this stunt. This is intentional. This is irremediable. This is on the key issue of this case, whether there was any collision at all. On its own, Your Honor, on its own, this is a mistrial with prejudice. But I add to that what just happened, and I'm not going to repeat or go into other than to reference. This comes on just mere days after the Commonwealth raised the specter of absence of DNA on the same hoodie sweatshirt without having the criminalist, Ms. Kuhn from UC Davis come in. I know Your Honor already ruled on that.
Right,
and
so let's move along from
right,
that.
that's right, and I'm going to come back to this. Why is this occurring, Your Honor? Why is this happening? The Commonwealth has no case. They have no collision. They are desperate and are trying to create evidence of specters of collision where the evidence doesn't support it. So what have we come to? We've come to the manufacture of evidence. We've come to, incredibly, taking a hoodie, a key piece of evidence in this case, and holding up to Dr. Wolf, the ARCA expert, to try to make it seem like Dr. Wolf didn't do his job. You didn't account for these holes. How could you be a credible accident reconstructionist when you talk about some holes, but you don't talk about these holes? Knowing all along the holes that Attorney Brennan is trying to impeach Dr. Wolf on were caused by the Commonwealth's own criminalists as part of sampling. I don't believe one could come up with more misleading, misdirecting elucidation of testimony than this on the key issue in the case. We have irrefutable, objective evidence, and I will state that It's more than interesting that none of these exhibits that Your Honor now has marked for identification were put in evidence by the Commonwealth. Isn't it some coincidence that these are the one, and the only one of the, with regard to the hoodie, the back of it's not in, although the rest of them are, but these aren't. Your Honor, I think there is one and only one conclusion, in that this is intentional, that it is a matter of such significance and of such misconduct and intentional that it merits the sanction of a mistrial with prejudice. The amount of effort, the amount of work, I can't even begin to think to remedy this in front of the jury, to go backwards on this. That should not befall the defense. That should befall the prosecution. Ms. Reed, again, is entitled, like every other defendant in this wonderful Commonwealth, to a fair trial. The prosecution is supposed to be held to a higher standard, to do justice, to create a fair trial. This is the antithesis of a fair trial. Miss Reed's rights under the Constitution and the Declaration of Rights have once again been trampled on, and it is becoming evidently clear the more desperate the prosecution gets because it can't prove its theory, including its own medical examiner can't support them, that they're now resorting to conduct like this. Your Honor, at some point, this has to come to an end. At some point, Ms. Reed's rights have to be protected. At some point, confidence in the judicial system, the public's confidence in the judicial system, that prosecutors will conduct themselves with their duty to present a fair trial. That has to be enforced at some point for Ms. Reed to receive the fair trial that she and every other defendant in this Commonwealth is entitled to.
All right, thank you. Mr. Brennan.
Your Honor, my brief review of the lab paperwork and looking at the hoodie, it appears that I made a mistake. And so I think what should happen is there should be a curative instruction. There should be a stipulation. The court should instruct the jury that during Mr. Brennan's cross-examination, he asked Dr. Wolf about holes on the sweatshirt or holes on the back of Mr. O'Keefe's sweatshirt. The parties agree the holes were made by a crime lab technician. This was done inadvertently but should not have been asked. The court should strike the questions and the answers. And you should instruct the jury there to completely disregard any questions or answers about the holes in the back of the sweatshirt. And the court should allow the defense to introduce the lab paperwork.
All right. So I'm not going to allow the mistrial motion, Mr. Lessie. What I'm going to do is instruct the jurors. I'm going to put in what's been marked for identification, Y, Z, A, and B. 4 of each letters. I'm going to put all these into evidence. They can be displayed for the jury, and I'm going to instruct the jury that during the cross-examination of Dr. Wolf, Mr. Brennan asked him about holes in the back of the sweatshirt and whether or not they perhaps could have come from events or implying or something like this. I instruct you, you are not permitted to draw any inference that these could have come from the events of January 29th, 2020. 2022. I instruct you further that those holes were made by the criminalist, Ms. Harnett, during the course of her inspection and sampling of the sweatshirt on, I just put the dates aside. Chrissy, can I see those, please? It's unclear for me. Do you have a better idea, Mr. Alessi, what day these were done? Is it all of those 3 days? Now I see a fourth day. 5/11, no, I'm sorry, 5/11, 5/12, 5/11, 2022, 5/12, 2023, and 6/18, 2023. Those are the 3 dates.
Your Honor, on or about May 18th, when the defense filed a motion to test. So that's the probative date.
So May 18th?
Yes, that's good.
Okay.
And that's 2023.
Yep. All right. That's what I'm going to do. Is there anything further you want me to include in the instruction? Your rights are saved regarding the mistrial. I disagree with you on that.
Your Honor, I'm not going to go any more into the argument, but I appreciate the opportunity to provide perhaps some further instruction for Your Honor.
So I'll hear you. Go ahead.
So the first, Your Honor, is with regard to two things.
Hold on, note this moment, folks, because Bob Alessi at the end of the day is going to try to claim that he wants another opportunity to argue the curative instruction wasn't good enough. Judge Kearney was like, I gave you a chance to expand the curative instruction. This is what she was talking about. Bob Alessi is going to lose his renewed motion for review of the curative instruction because she gave him a chance to argue it here.
One, I would like the opportunity to have the hoodie sweatshirt held up, because that's what
Okay.
happened.
Yes. Yes.
These holes in the
Yes.
back.
Yes.
Thank you. So that's number one as part of the stipulation, and then
I'm not wording it as a stipulation, and I'm not saying it was inadvertent. I am giving an instruction that they cannot consider it for this purpose, and I am allowing these to be placed into evidence. So it's not a stipulation. It's from me, which I think is more forceful.
I misspoke, Your Honor. I agree, not a stipulation, but just as Your Honor said, with regard to the matter Your Honor said they're not to take an inference, I would respectfully request that this be handled just like Your Honor did with regard to the rock at 34 Fairview. Your Honor said that rock wasn't present, on or about the time of event.
So I do say that when I say Ms. Harnett did this. So rewording it just a little bit.
Yes, exactly.
Mr. Brennan asked Dr. Wolf about holes in the back of the sweatshirt. I instruct you that you are not permitted to draw any inference that those holes were a result of the events on January 29th, So, all right, this is what I'm going to say. So if you're not going to listen to it, that's fine. I've already said it. All right, we can bring the jury in.
Oh, Alessi pissed Judge
That's what I
Kearney
said,
off.
Mr. Alessi.
Your Honor, I was consulting with Mr. Leslie. I'm not showing disrespect.
Okay.
Of course, we're listening.
All right, so it's what I said, Mr. Alessi. I instruct you that you're not permitted to draw an inference that the holes came from the events of January 29, 2025. Those holes were made by the criminalist, Ms. Harnett, during the course of her inspection and sampling of the sweatshirt on May 18, 2023.
Is it possible, Your Honor, last comment, to instead of not drawing inference, you should conclude that these holes were not present in the hoodie sweatshirt. They were caused by the criminalist.
So I can just leave that all out then and just say, Mr. Brennan asked Dr. Wolf about the holes in the sweatshirt. I instruct you that those holes were made by the criminalist, Ms. Harnett, during the course of her inspection and sampling of the sweatshirt on May 18th. It's probably neater that way anyway. All right, let's bring them in, please.
Judge, just as a housekeeping matter, the sweatshirt's been taken out of the plastic sheet, and it might need to be remarked. The plastic sheeting was marked, but the
Court is in session.
All right. Jurors, I appreciate your patience. Mr. Alessi, why don't you hold the exhibit up for the jurors, please? All right, jurors, that's the back of the sweatshirt that was shown to Dr. Wolf. Okay, thank you. Why don't you go ahead and put it back in the bag? So, jurors, I instruct you that those holes were made by the criminalist, Ms. Harnett, during the course of her inspection and sampling of the sweatshirt back on May 18th, 2023. Okay? So, I know your lunches are here, but I think we'll...
Just jumping forward, so we don't have to watch the fan.
May I inquire?
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. LaPosada, you just mentioned
Oh, hold
that...
on. That was not, we just wanted to get to the end of the day where Judge Kearney gives her instruction. AJ, we don't need to hear you continuing to talk. Oh yeah, there was another sidebar. Hold on. This is where Judge Kearney gives the instruction. Or not the instruction.
We will start. I'm going to have you show up a half hour later than we normally do because I expect to have 10 minutes with the lawyers, but we see sometimes with 10 minutes naturally in the course of any case can turn into. So I don't want you to be waiting as much as you've waited today. So you taking half an hour more to get in here, whatever time we normally meet, the court officers will tell you. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Tomorrow will be a full day, and we will make every effort that it's filled with as much time here in court for you without sidebar conferences, without delays for us to have hearings. So tomorrow, plan on a full day. Please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into the case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about the case, please disregard it and let us know. Be careful again with your social media use, and we'll see you tomorrow. So Dr. LaPosada, yes. You can step right up.
All right, now we're going to stay around, friends, because you're going to notice the jury walks out. This next part is, sorry,
Thank you, Your Honor.
this next part's very important because we are going to hear the discussion about how the planning for the next few days. All right, so we're going to watch a few more minutes. It's only maybe 5 minutes of scheduling. We're going to watch this. It occurred right at the end of the day. This tells you all you need to know about the coming days in the John O'Keefe and Karen Reed retrial. Pay attention here, folks. We're going to be done soon in the next few days.
All right, so can you argue the Commonwealth's motion that I received this morning regarding Dr. Renshaw? Can we just do that now? Okay. No, that's fine. So we'll do that first thing at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. The basis of the Commonwealth's, I've read the motion. I think the motion is clear. I'll hear you both tomorrow on it. All right. And you'll take care of the photographs whatever photographs in her report you intend to put in.
Is the court hasn't made the order yet, but it seemed like the court was leaning toward not allowing any text on the photographs.
So that was just at a quick review. I just read the content, the text part for the arguments for today, the arguments that were brought up today. I wasn't anticipating everything that we heard today on this, so it took a while. I did not get to look at specifically those. But to the extent that it's hearsay, whether it considers anything about dogs, clearly things that have been excluded have to come out of the photographs. All right.
The other photos deal with gastric mucosa.
I think those have been shown, and I know the Wisniewski spots one is in evidence. The brain photographs are not coming in. The brain photographs that are different than what's already, the brain photographs in her report.
Understood.
They're-
My biggest issue is the stomach lining is a bigger issue, and then some photographs do as well as like the car that's probably already in, things of that nature.
So tell me what you think is more of an issue, more of what you want. So I don't think the photographs on pages 4 or 5 come in. They don't add anything, and they are extremely inflammatory.
I'm not looking to enter I'm not looking to get those brain skull.
All right, the photos on page 6, I believe, are already in evidence. So this is,
That's a Lucas machine.
right, just a textbook photo of a Lucas machine.
Correct.
Is there an objection to that, Mr. Brennan?
No, thank you.
Okay. So do you want all of that in, or just the photograph that's got color to it?
I'd actually like all of it in. She will explain what effect it has on the pancreas and the stomach lining. It's in it to the restricted spots for lack thereof.
Okay.
Page 14, I think these are all in evidence otherwise, but I would like this particular, because it's all in one spot.
Hold on 1 second. Okay, so 1 is in. Point number 1, that was in evidence, and those 2 photographs. This is all for number 1. What was?
These are all close-ups of the same photo that is already in evidence.
Okay.
The right sleeve. So I'd like to use this because it speaks to her evaluation of these particular.
All right. How does she know it's blood staining on the fabric around the puncture? I'm just curious.
The blood stain on fabric around the puncture.
Yes.
I'm assuming she's getting that from the lab. They tested it.
Okay. I don't recall testimony regarding. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. I just don't recall it. So I just need to know
Super worried about that.
the source. All right.
Pull that out.
I have no objections to the photos. I do have an objection to the captions that go with the photos.
Okay. 13A and 13B.
Yes.
Yep. So 13B's out because of the dog bite.
For obvious reasons.
Let me see. All right. So if we keep out the blood staining, Mr. Brennan, is there an objection? Oh, puncture. What's the objection for the Commonwealth on 13A?
The opinion outward tearing, the opinion blood staining.
I have no issue with blood stain coming out. Outward tearing that is her opinion of what it looks like.
Okay, so we're going to have to see if she's qualified to do that, to testify to that. All right. What's the next page?
Page figure 3 in the report.
What page?
I don't have a page number. Judge. Hold it up.
Page 5.
Page 5. It shows the cross section of the brainstem.
That's what I was saying. I didn't see how that was coming in.
I certainly don't want the one in that is in sculpture, which is highly graphic. This is no more graphic than the stuff.
I disagree, but why does she have to use this photograph?
In furtherance of her determination of the conflict of injury supports that. I didn't put it in during that conversation.
Okay.
I would like to keep those.
There's no contention that coup contra coup is the cause of the brain injury, correct?
There is a contention that the coup contra coup is, yes, that is the contention. I don't think there's any controversy. That's what the.
I thought that's what Dr. Wolf testified to, no?
Consistent, I don't think there's any disagreement.
Right. So I don't know why we need this photograph.
Because this shows, at least for her, this shows a bleeding of the brainstem, which talks about whether or not he's immediately incapacitated or not immediately incapacitated. which is
Okay.
an issue that Dr.
No, I understand that's an issue. Okay,
It is an issue.
yeah. Okay. What else, Mr. Jackson?
I think you've seen this, Your Honor, and I'm looking at this figure 5. So there's these spots.
Yeah, I think that's already in evidence, isn't it?
It is, but not the. Mr. Leslie's saying it's only a chunk of this one, is that right?
I recall it was up, and I usually don't put up chalks, but okay. Excuse me?
Mr. Leslie. Can you say it again?
There's only one person who can talk at a time. I'm told it's Exhibit 164.
Yes, Your Honor, and my understanding is it's marked as an exhibit only. It was used as a chart, but not in evidence.
Okay, so if it's marked as an exhibit, it means it's in evidence.
Sorry, marked for identification.
I'm told I think it's an exhibit. We can find out. If it's an exhibit, everybody's fine with it. It's in. 164, I think. We'll know. Okay. What are those? All right, so we'll have to see what's in and what's not. I'm just trying to make the best use of the time here.
The next is figure 9. Just attendant to these two photographs are attendant to the Lucas machine.
So you're saying 9 in evidence or 9 on the form? 9A and B. Is there an objection to these, Mr. Brennan? Going to the Lucas compression device. There's one on someone who's not John O'Keefe, and then this is on Mr. O'Keefe.
No objection.
Okay, so those will come in.
That's it.
Okay. All right. How much longer, and I'm not curbing you in any way, how much longer do you think? It seems like after the very lengthy qualifications, we're now moving along quicker with Dr. Laposada.
I would guess I probably am going to finish under an hour.
Okay. Any idea, Mr. Brennan?
I guess it'll probably be about a half hour.
Okay. So we should finish with Dr. Laposada's testimony either by the morning break or shortly thereafter. So we'll discuss Dr. Rentschler's testimony, the objections to it. Why don't you just tell me briefly, Mr. Brennan, what the objections are?
There are a number of slides that attempt to frame what the contested issues are in the case. It's improper opinions, it assumes facts, not evidence, and it improperly summarizes the Commonwealth position. There are a number of slides that provide credibility determinations about Dr. Welcher, and there are a number of slides that summarize opinions by this expert. So the improper summaries, the credibility determinations, trying to frame issues for the jury, none of that should be admissible as part of the PowerPoint. So we've articulated each slide and what our objections are to each slide that we have any objections to. There's quite a few.
All right, so I'll look through that tonight, but the same restrictions will be you don't criticize the person, it's the data, what you saw, what you didn't see. So if it's different than that in the slides, it's going to have to come out.
Understood. I'll take a close look at it. I just haven't had a chance.
Yeah, no, I understand. I haven't read it either.
If we're done.
Okay.
4 documents. These are documents that are attendant to Dr. Laposada's opinion and conclusions concerning the dog bites.
Okay, so
I'd like to have those identified for the record.
yes, So we'll make that part of the record. I need a clean copy of Dr. Lapasada's report and her resume for the same purpose.
And her resume.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I'll have those two by the way.
Okay.
Just finally, the redacted version of the 3430 post is not marked. Could I have that marked as an exhibit now?
Okay. There was no objection, Mr. Brennan?
This was never marked as an exhibit. That's all.
Why don't we do that right now?
Thank you.
Exhibit 224.
So I would like us to be as efficient for these jurors as possible tomorrow. I'm not suggesting that today was a waste of time. Everything we did was important, but it's very difficult for the jurors to spend so much time back there. It seems that they're just about ready to get this case, and everything that we hear now is very important. So I don't think anybody wants the jurors to tune out at this point. So let's try and keep things moving along. Mr. Jackson, how long do you expect to be with Dr. Rentschler?
Hour and a half. 2 hours. I'm being corrected. 3 hours. 4. She has a better pace than I do. I don't watch my watch when I'm directing, but maybe it's gonna be a whole thing. I mean, between us and cross-examination.
All right. So I told you all the other day I thought I might be in a position to regret giving you last Thursday off, and that's where we're at. So let's be as efficient as we can possibly be.
I promise you we are. It's a murder trial, Judge.
I understand. All right.
I have one more item when Your Honor is ready.
Okay. So, Mr. Jackson, do you expect that Dr. Rentschler will be the last witness that you call?
That's my expectation.
Okay. On rebuttal, any idea how long that will be, Mr. Brennan?
I'd like to keep it to 2 hours.
Okay. All right, that would be for everything, including Dr.
I'm
Wrench,
sorry.
Dr. Welcher?
Dr. Welcher, and then the DNA, all those two witnesses. I think it should be done in less than an hour.
All right, so will Dr. Welcher be called after the DNA people?
Trying to schedule that. I expect to call him last minute. It all depends on when we can get the DNA people, and Dr. Welcher will be here tomorrow or tonight, so he'll be here. So whoever's, if they're available, I'd like to get the DNA people in first. But we haven't had confirmation on the flight.
All right, because I told Mr. Lessie that he could excuse himself from this testimony if there were other witnesses first, so that he can prepare once he gets the discovery from Dr. Welcher.
Thank you, Your Honor. Could we understand from the Commonwealth the names of the rebuttal witnesses we're talking about?
They were in the motion, right?
Well, we heard some different things at sideline today. If something happened with Dr. Lapasada, they were going to be different. We heard that at sideline.
Oh, okay, so the motion that I allowed was Ms. Kuhn. I believe Dr. Gillespie's name was in there,
Hartnett?
and Ms. Hartnett. Okay.
So that's the scope of Dr. Welcher or the scope of the rebuttal witnesses for the Commonwealth.
Yes, I allowed the motion. Mr. Brennan says he's not calling Dr. Gillespie. Mr. Gillespie, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And nor Dr. Crosby. as I understand.
Or Dr. Crosby. Right.
That's what
Yeah.
I think there's.
Sorry, I know.
Well, it's important to know.
You're not calling their dog expert or your own, correct?
Not calling Dr. Crosby.
Okay.
The other item, Your Honor, we want to alert you to, we will come tomorrow with a suggestion with regard to the curative instruction that was given to the court today. We're going to come tomorrow with, it has to be heard on that further. And so we're going to come in with that. What happened, what was discussed before, I'm not so sure.
You asked me to change it, was my recollection, Mr. Lessie.
We looked at it at lunch, Your Honor, and appreciate the opportunity to confer with you on that. Don't want to keep the staff later today.
And I don't want to keep the jury waiting, so file something with me and I'll take a look at it. All right. All right, so that's it. We expect to be ready to go when the jury's here tomorrow morning, probably no later than 9:15, 9:20, right?
Yes.
Okay, and we'll use a full day, as much of it as we can.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And that was how it ended, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we are going to try to get this recap done in the next 10 to 30 seconds here, ladies and gentlemen. If I can bring it up on the screen. We're not going to get it done in the next 30 seconds, but I do have, ladies and gentlemen, footage of Karen Reed leaving court. I'm not going to rush it because I made a promise, ladies and gentlemen. I made the promise of the promise of the promise. And I said I have a new version of the Call Me Hank clip. And let me just tell you, ladies and gentlemen, when Towel says there is a new version of the Call Me Hank clip, oh, you can bet there is a new version of the Call Me Hank clip. Now listen, we battled throughout the day, ladies and gentlemen. We have fallen behind Al Jazeera Arabic. We are at 37.6K. They are at 38.3K. We did our very best, ladies and gentlemen. We did our absolute best, but we only got to 37.6K on the Twitter. On the X. Oh, ladies and gentlemen. Now we got to watch footage of Karen leaving court, and then we have a brand new Call Me Hank clip. I know all of you are excited for the brand new Call Me Hank clip. I am an excitable little towel, and we still have about 40 minutes before I have to shut the stream off. So let me bring this up for you, little towels. Let me bring it up for you right now. I have it. I am a little towel. Here is the footage of Karen Reed leaving court. We are going to be little towels. We are going to watch it, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, indeed. I'm going to bring this over here. I'm going to bring this over here, and we are going to watch Karen Reed leaving court. She is not a towel. Hold on. We have a muted Karen. We can't have a muted Karen. Why? Oh, wait. Hold on. I got...
What do you think will come up is not against you in terms of better testimony than last time around for your side of the case?
Dr. Laposada is gonna opine like pretty sure it's not coming back.
Is it the hypothermia situation?
Yes.
How about no dog bites from the doctor, though? Is that somewhat disappointing?
The holes in the shirt were entirely misrepresented by the prosecutor. Were entirely misrepresented by the prosecutor, hence all the delays today. That was Hank Brennan. To make it look like they came from January 29th, and they came from May by the criminologist.
What do you think?
The poor guy almost fell over. Did someone check on that man? Is he okay? Oh, goodness, ladies and gentlemen. Goodness. Hello, Ange Whittick. It's your granddaughter's birthday. Ladies and gentlemen, Ange Whittick, your granddaughter gets a special towel shout out during the recap. Hello, Super Towel Ange Whittick's granddaughter. You are a super towel. I know you've waited your whole life to find out that you are a towel. Your grandmother is going to be absolutely thrilled. You two can both be towels together. You don't understand. It's wonderful. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we saw the footage of Karen Reed leaving court, but we have even more footage to look at because, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, I got a very special request from the Super Towel Eva, and I am not the person to turn down a request from the Super Towel Eva. Listen, the Super Towel Eva wants to see Hank Brennan's socks. I am going to bring up a picture of Hank Brennan's socks for the Super Towel Eva. Now, you may be saying to yourself, Grant, I don't really understand. Is it because socks are technically a form of feet towels? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is the origin of it. Okay, now we have a few more. We have a clip coming, the Call Me Hank clip. But listen, if I didn't zoom in on Hank Brennan's socks right now, Eva would be furious with me. Eva would never speak to me again. I have an ethical obligation, ladies and gentlemen, to zoom in on Hank Brennan's socks. You don't understand. So there you go, Eva Towel. You have waited. Your faith has thus beeneth rewardeth, and you now have the opportunity to look at Hank Brennan's feet towels. As Deafwater knows, socks are referred to formally as feet towels pursuant to a motion of the towel universe. Now, ladies and gentlemen, on the topic of that, I think we should also take a look at my brand new Call Me Hank clip, ladies and gentlemen. It is stabilized. Murder by Maestro created it, and I am a towel. Now, you might be saying, sir, you're not actually a towel. Yes, I am. Ladies and gentlemen, I am a towel, and I have the Call Me Hank clip, and we are going to get to watch it. Now, I'm sorry to take away Hank Brennan's socks. Eva, try to calm down. I know you were very, very excited. But ladies and gentlemen, we have an ethical obligation to watch the new Call Me Hank clip. Colleen Henry is in the chat. I know your chat comments aren't loading. They're a little bit behind. It's okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a brand new, super stabilized, color enhanced, full screened. Hold on, I got to make this absolutely glorious for you all. You are going to see this clip in its absolute Call Me Hank glory. You don't understand, ladies and gentlemen. Murder by Maestro put a lot of effort into this. We have a color corrected, stabilized Call Me Hank clip. This is going to be one of the greatest things you have ever seen. I don't even know if Colleen Henry is going to be able to contain themselves. They might start running around in a circle, ladies and gentlemen. It is literally that good of a clip. And you might be saying to yourself, Grant, it is impossible for one clip to be that good. Well, you know what? It is actually that good. It's so good that it is getting in the recap. It is so good that it's like watching an episode of Full House and living in the 1990s when things in America were actually okay. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is the clip you've all waited to see. It's the clip the world wants to see. It's the updated, the stabilized, the Murder by Maestro created, the Call Me Hank clip.
You as well, Mr. Brennan. Okay, sir, I will, Hank.
One more time.
You as well, Mr. Brennan. Okay, sir, I will, Hank.
Oh, we need this one again. It's that good.
You as well, Mr. Brennan. Okay, sir, I will, Hank.
All right, this gets it. We're breaking a record 4 times.
You as well, Mr. Brennan. Okay, sir, I will, Hank.
Ladies and gentlemen, we broke a record. Oh, we broke a record. We broke a record. We watched the Call Me Hank clip literally 4 times. Oh my word, Murder by Maestro is a super towel. Now listen, little towels, I have even more updates for you, and you might be saying, Grant, more updates. How is this possible? Don't tell me that reporter towel Christina has been on the scene and we still have 35 minutes to go and you have updates for us from reporter towel Christina. This is not possible. Oh yes, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, you thought that was good. You are about to have the greatest end to a towel stream day that you could possibly imagine outside of Karen Reed and Aidan Kearney getting convicted. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, Eva Towel, I want you to take a very deep breath. I don't know if you're going to be able to get through this, okay? I have confirmation from reporter towel Christina that Hank Brennan wears socks, which are actually called feet towels. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you might be saying to yourself, why is this man talking about socks being feet towels? Well, listen. First of all, Hank Brennan wears socks. Second of all, socks can be towels. Therefore, ipso facto, it is a logical syllogism. It is a logical proof. Hank Brennan is a towel. Now, I know this is going to be very complicated. Oh, Luisa Ramirez has one more request, the Hank Brennan Karen stare down. But I know, first of all, some of you really, it is very important to you, ladies and gentlemen, that you see this incredibly important picture of Hank Brennan confirming that he does indeed wear feet towels, which are just socks. Now, I have to get the Hank Brennan and Karen Reed stare down. We have a very special towel request here for the Hank Brennan and Karen Reed stare down. I have it here somewhere, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on. I didn't save the link, so this is, of course, the one thing I have to now go actually looking for. We already saw the stare down once, but if you really want to see it again, we'll look for it. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, that was certainly an interesting day. Absolutely an interesting day. If someone has the Hank Karen stare down video that they want to share quickly, we'll take a look at it. I don't have it off the top of my head here, so I don't just have the clip accessible. But I want to keep doing the Karen Reed. I want to keep doing the reporter towel updates. So we already saw the stare down during the recap. It literally happened right at the end of Hank Brennan. Okay, so I found it. Now, this is one of the Karen Reed account, attacking Hank Brennan. So no, we are not watching that one. Someone's going to have to find, okay. Thanks, Colleen Henry. Let's see. It is, x.com/the-monkey. All right. I think this is the one. Thank you, Colleen Henry. Here, hopefully this is the quick stare down. If not, I have the right account. So, here we go. This is the right one, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to sync this with the Karen Cam later today. But here you go, ladies and gentlemen, the epic Hank Brennan Karen Cam stare down. I'll get rid of this Hank towel here. Hold on. I love that Hank towel image, though, reporter towel, Christina. But yes, we'll quickly watch the stare down one more time. Hold on, little towels. All right, there we go. This is the last time, though. One more time, because we already saw the stare down today. Here we go, little towels. Let's take a look at it. Hank Brennan and Karen Reed.
I love the sweatshirt on my age. It's probably neater that way anyway. All right, let's bring them in, please.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Hank Brennan staring down the monster herself, Karen Reed.
I love the sweatshirt on my age. It's probably neater that way anyway. All right, let's bring them in, please.
Oh, goodness, ladies and gentlemen, the Hankinator. The Hankinator standing up to Karen Reed. Now, folks, hold on one second. I got to bring your comments back up. Now, we don't have too much time here, so I didn't really want to spend too much time on that, but I'm so glad we got to watch that. The reason why is we have a few more updates from reporter towel Christina, ladies and gentlemen, and we only have about 30 minutes left on the YouTube stream. Hello, so many of you towel friends tuning in. We're going to have to do a truncated close if I don't get through with all of this, and I hate doing truncated closes, but it was a dud of a day, a busy day. It was a whirlwind day. Oh, yes, ladies and gentlemen, and along with Hank Brennan wearing feet towels, I think I have another special update for you. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is the Arca Man with a calculator, and Randy himself, ladies and gentlemen, has made an appearance. Yes, little towels. Crash Test Randy has helped Mr. Arcaman with his calculator. Oh, goodness, reporter towel Christina, you have the absolute best insights, my dear friend. I am so thrilled we got to see an update related to Arca's calculator. Oh, goodness, my towel friends. Oh, goodness. Now we have even more. We have two more updates. The last one you're going to absolutely love. If you are a fan of the phrase, getting the Van Karen, you are going to love the last image. Now, I have one more before we get there, but I'm telling you, you are absolutely going to love this last image. Now, tell me, are you not entertained, ladies and gentlemen? Are you not entertained? Do you not see a little image there saying that Chewbacca and the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man love towels and that we all love towels? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am thrilled to let you know that the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and Chewbacca love towels. Oh, this is absolutely wonderful. I am thrilled that reporter towel Christina has blessed us with this update about Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and Chewbacca. Oh, goodness, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, I think the world needs towel socks, ladies and gentlemen. That's clearly what the world needs. We need towel socks. Now, I think it's great that Hank wears feet towels. We're going to have to let Deaf Otter know tomorrow that Hank Brennan wears feet towels. Now, we got one more update. This is a big one. This is Karen, if you're a fan of the phrase, get in the van, Karen, you are going to absolutely love Reporter Towels Christina's last update. Oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, it's as good as you can imagine. There's Chewbacca. Ladies and gentlemen, Chloe the dog in a wig this whole time was actually an undercover van driver. Karen is going to be transported to Framingham by Chewbacca, and he's going to have a sign on the side that says, "How long till you get in the van, Karen?" That is hilarious, ladies and gentlemen. That is everything that I could ever imagine, and that is wonderful in every sense of the term. Ladies and gentlemen, it is very clear Hank Brennan wears feet towels that are socks, and Karen Reed's going to get in a van driven by Chewbacca to go to Framingham. Yes, one more week, get in the van, driven by Chewbacca, Karen. Ladies and gentlemen, the world loves the van. That is a very, very wonderful image. Oh, my word, little towels. Oh, my word. Now, we are going to cap this recap, so tune in again. I'm going to go talk to the towel friends towards the end of the stream. Tune in again tomorrow, 7:30 a.m. Eastern, youtube.com/@GrantSmithEllis. I'll try to get this recap out for you. We're going to end it at 7:05. We started at 4:48, so it was over a 2-hour recap again. I'm going to render it in 480p so that I don't have to spend 5 hours uploading it. But yes, grateful to have you with us. God bless so many of your towel friends. I'm going to go chat with the towel friends, actually. And you know where to find us. Aidan Kearney trial resuming Wednesday. Karen Reed trial again tomorrow, full day. We're getting close to closing arguments. My name's Grant Smith Ellis, and I am a towel. Perfect Towel Friends. Recap ends at 7:03:40 p.m. That we started it at 4:48 p.m., if you would imagine that. And I absolutely love that get in the van picture. Oh my goodness, I can see why all of you towel friends are just having an absolute wonderful day. Now, some of your comments are going to be a little bit delayed, but while they're getting loaded up, little towels, let us watch the clip that we all love. We all know and love. We're waiting for it. I have to move the get rid of the Karen get in the van image. Don't worry, we'll bring it back another day. But ladies and gentlemen, we know that Colleen Henry loves this clip. We know that Murder by Maestro